Hey, what is up? So for this video, I actually want to go back to the Better Call Saul Season 6 trailer that was released a few weeks ago, and I actually want to discuss the very short scene that was displayed to us in this trailer of Gus Fring meeting with Hector Salamanca. Now, near the end of this trailer, we see two short scenes put together of what appears to be Gus Fring shaking Hector Salamanca's hand and then meeting with him at what is implied to be Casa Tranquila. Now, of course, we have not seen these two characters interact with each other since the final episode of Season 3 of Better Call Saul, entitled Lantern, when Hector suffered his stroke at the end of this episode. And so it appears that Season 6 of Better Call Saul is going to present to us the very first meeting between these two characters following Hector's stroke. Now, interestingly, I've seen a lot of people online point out the fact that in this trailer, Hector is looking at Gus Fring, going as far as to say what is the mystery behind why Hector didn't look at Gus Fring in the plot of Breaking Bad. And to tell you the truth, this really doesn't appear to be a mystery at all, based on what was displayed to us in the plot of Breaking Bad. So for this video, I'm now going to go back to the plot of Breaking Bad and discuss the meetings between these two characters that were displayed to us on screen in this series. Alright, so the very first meeting that we see between these two characters took place in Season 3 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled IFT. We're following Gus stopping the cousins from killing Walter White in the previous episode. We see Gus meet with Juan Bolsa, Hector, and the cousins at the Los Pollos Hermanos chicken farm to discuss the reason for why Gus did not want the cousins to carry out this hit on Walter White. Now, in this scene, we can see Hector looking directly at Gus Fring, unlike the notorious plot detail that was displayed to us in the episode entitled Face Off, where Hector refused to look Gus in the eye. Of course, until the very end, when he finally decided to ignite the pipe bomb attached to his wheelchair, thus distracting him and making him able to kill them both in the scene. Now, again, irrespective of the exact plot details that are going on in the scene in Season 3 of Breaking Bad, we can see that Gus and Hector are on at least amicable enough terms, and that Hector is looking at Gus in the eye. So this really displays to us that nothing is going to happen in the plot of Better Call Saul where Hector is not going to look Gus in the eye. Obviously, these two characters hate each other. It's abundantly clear, but there needs to be sort of feigning cordiality that needs to ensue over the course of Season 6 of Better Call Saul in order for there to not be a plot hole here where something happens, let's say, in the plot of next season where Hector doesn't look at Gus in the eye, because he clearly looks at him in the eye in Season 3 of Breaking Bad. Also, that being said, just to go off on a quick tangent here, several years ago, Vince Gilligan actually did an interview talking about two of the things he wishes he could change about Breaking Bad. And in addition to one of them being Jesse Pinkman's phosphorescent white teeth, that is definitely a contradiction to someone who uses meth as frequently as he does. He definitely shouldn't have teeth that white. But the other thing that he wishes he can change actually took place in this episode, where we see Gus Fring refer to Don Hector as Don Salamanca here, which of course is incorrect and not proper Spanish.
La familia Salamanca, el cartel, todos están unidos en este asunto.
Don Salamanca, señores.
This was, of course, corrected in the plot of Better Call Saul, where Don Hector was only referred to as Don Hector and is never referred to Don Salamanca again, like this scene in Breaking Bad.
I'm so sorry, Don Hector.
That being said, I've definitely seen online some people complain about the Spanish in Breaking Bad, about how there are errors like this and how it's not the best. But again, that's a discussion for a different video. Now, that being said, the next meeting that happens between these two characters then took place in season 4 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Hermanos. Now, there's a couple meetings between these two characters that happen in this scene, but the first meeting that ensues takes place during the cold opening of this episode, which is a flashback to season 3 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled I See You, where it's implied that following the death of the cousins and then Juan Bolsa at the end of that episode, this scene occurred following Gus going to Casa Tranquila to tell Hector what had transpired between Juan Bolsa as well as the cousins.
I can give you the highlights. Your nephews grew impatient. They continued to press me for my permission to kill Walter White. When I wouldn't give it, they settled instead for DEA agent Schrader. But a phone call was placed to Agent Schrader moments before the attack, thus giving him the upper hand.
And again, in this scene, it is absolutely clear to us that Hector Salamanca is looking at Gus Fring in the eye. And to tell you the truth, this scene here, the cold opening scene of this episode in season 4, actually answers the question of why Hector Salamanca did no longer look Gus Fring directly in the eye. Because it appears that after this story of Gus all but telling him that he was the one responsible for the death of his nephews as well as Juan Bolsa, this event, this story is what caused Hector to finally shun Gus Fring and no longer look at him in the eye.
This is what comes of blood for blood, Hector. Sangre por sangre.
Because later, at the end of this episode, following Gus meeting with Hector again, the plot details aren't too important here for what's going on in this episode, but following Gus Fring meeting with Hank Schrader at the DEA, we then see him go to Hector at Casa Tranquila to sort of discuss the fact that Hank is looking into his past.
DEA agent Schrader, he's a concern. He's looking into my past.
And we can see directly here in this second meeting between these characters in this episode, in this scene, Hector no longer looks Gus Fring in the eye, unlike the cold opening scene, so it's heavily implied that following the death of his nephews, at the implied hand of Gus Fring, this is what causes Hector Salamanca to shun Gus Fring and disrespect him in a manner where he doesn't even look at him in the eye anymore. So yeah, if you go back and watch that scene in this episode, Hector does not look at Gus Fring in the eye. Even when prompted to do so, when Gus tells Hector, "Look at me, Hector," he does not do it.
Look at me.
Gus then, prior to leaving, Hector tells him, maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
Of course, unbeknownst to Gus, this eventually foreshadows his death, because the first time that Hector will look at him in the eye, following this will be, like I said previously, the pipe bomb scene at the very end of season 4 on the episode entitled Face Off. Of course, prior to that scene, we then see these two characters meet again in the episode entitled Crawl Space, where Gus Fring again goes to Casa Tranquila to tell Hector what had transpired at Don Eladio's hacienda in the episode entitled Salud, one episode prior.
All of them, Hector. Don Eladio, Don Paco, Cesar, Reynaldo, Fortuno, Cisco and Luis, Escalada, all dead.
Again, in this scene, we see Hector not looking Gus Fring in the eye, but it appears that there may be some sort of incidental glances here at Gus Fring as a consequence of him looking at Don Eladio's necklace in this scene. Again, definitely though, the point is that Hector is not looking Gus Fring in the eye here again. Again, like I said, he may have done it incidentally here, but other than that, no looking at Gus Fring in the eye. Again, from what appears to be following the death of his nephews Marco and Leonel Salamanca.
Will you look at me now? Look at me, Hector. Look at me.
And of course, as mentioned previously, the final meeting between these two characters finally took place in season 4 of Breaking Bad, in the final episode of this season entitled Face Off, where following Gus going to Casa Tranquila to kill Hector, following the setup by Walter White, we finally see Gus tell Hector, "Last chance to look at me."
Last chance to look at me, Hector.
Of course, he does just before he rings his bell, which is the switch to ignite the pipe bomb, thus killing both of these characters, and thus concluding the storyline of both of these characters as well. So yeah, this pretty much sums up the mystery here of Hector not looking Gus in the eye. It's not going to happen in Better Call Saul based on the canon of Breaking Bad. And like I said, there needs to be this sort of feigned cordiality between these two characters. And it's definitely something I've thought about, how I feel that this storyline between these two characters has kind of reached its final conclusion in the plot of Better Call Saul. With respect to what happens in Breaking Bad, of course, Lalo Salamanca here is going to be the wild card next season. I've discussed that in many videos in the past regarding Lalo's role as a quote-unquote Salamanca next season. Again, that's a discussion for a different video. But yeah, like I said, Breaking Bad pretty much displaying to us the answer to this mystery, and also displaying to us why it would be a sort of contradiction in the canon for there to be some sort of grand event that causes Hector to not look at Gus Fring in the eyes next season. Alright, that is all I really got for you guys on this one. Like I said, this is a pretty interesting storyline here between Gus Fring and Hector Salamanca that ensues over the course of Breaking Bad. And I definitely want to take a look at the storyline in more depth in a future video. A lot of mysteries here in respect to Gus Fring's relationship to the cartel that haven't been answered, as well as his mysterious past in Chile that are completely open-ended, that I hope I can delve into at some point in time in the future, prior to, if not during, season 6 of Better Call Saul. And as always, my name is Anton Jackson. Thank you again so much for watching this video.